It's risky, but confuses the hell out of opponents. Idea what's coming.
So that's called the smash hook.
This next hook is thrown by Alex Pereira.
So that's the smash hook.
So as such, I'll just call it the peek
for the dive bomb hook. You ready for the dive bomb hook?
The elbow is...
Get ready, guys.
Next is Roy Jones Jr.'s dive bomb. Jones would condition...
Okay, you see the difference between the dive bomb and the smash hook? You see it? The same punch in the same fight. Same exact sequence. Exactly. Like the same freaking punch. You see how it's called two different things? And it's a different type of hook in one hook. Gets me going a little bit. Oh, hello out there in TV land. This is Coach Keith Keppner doing a fight study. Or excuse me, the hell am I talking about? I'm doing a video review on modern martial artists' latest video called 17 Hooks. Now again, I got nothing against the guy. I know he's a martial arts guy. He's not a boxing guy. He says he does boxing. That's cool. I mean, that's fine. To be clear, my friend, I looked up his name. I'm not trying to call him out. But I want to... He does really entertaining material. And I don't mean that sarcastically. Like, it's really well done to put together. It's way better than the crap that I put together as far as, like, production, right? And he goes through and does a lot of pieces of fights. Excellent editing. Super pumped up way that he talks and great scripts that he writes. Mad respect, my friend. So I just want to use, in a boxing gym, like if you go in boxing gyms that are, that have fighters, are you going to learn 17 types of hooks? Well, I guess you could say maybe it's a crappy boxing gym that you don't learn 17 types of hooks, but I would argue to say it's probably a crappy boxing gym that you learn 17 types of hooks, right? So this is kind of like a little bit on the theme of my guard video. If you haven't watched that, check that out. But let's dive into it. Modern martial artists video on 17 effective hooks that are insane or something like that.
You guys seem to really love my video on 50 different kinds of jabs. And
50 different types of jabs? That's an extensive list. Do you think it'd be beneficial for you as a boxer or as a boxing coach to work on 50 different types of jabs? Yes, there are different types of jabs or whatever, different ways they're delivered. But generally, it's good to mess around with a couple different ways to throw it, discover ways that are going to land more and things like that, as well as foundational ways to do punches. And that's that. You're wasting a lot of your time on 50 jabs.
Asked for more. So without further ado, here's 17 different kinds of lead hook punches, with examples of the legendary fighters who used them.
Well, thank goodness we're only doing lead hook punches, because he probably has, what would that be, 34 hook punches if you had both hands and not just lead hands.
They're listed from standard to unusual to downright insane by the end of the video. So hopefully you can find at least one new shiny weapon to add to your arsenal.
Watch out for shiny weapons. It could be a trap. Could be a fish hook. You're a fish. You get attracted by something shiny. You bite the fish hook. Now you're out of the water. Now you're dead. Watch out for shiny things.
First up is the basic horizontal fist hook.
Now I love that because I just noticed that watching that. Here he is in his stance with his right shoulder forward because he's southpaw in this clip, and he shoots a short 2. It's a little fingery, but it's still good. That's a hook. That's a hook. That's not a hook. That's called a 2 that is thrown from short range, and he tries to do it again, but the guy's concussed and he goes down. Any questions? All right, let's move on. And again, sorry if I'm coming across as aggressive or something like that. You know, again, dude, I'm sure this guy knows a lot about martial arts, and that's great. But I'm just coming at this from a boxing coach, and I wanna unmuddy the waters, right? Because what I see online is a lot of like 50 different words for the same thing, or different little, like if you throw a punch like, oh, here's my 2, and if I throw the 2 like that a little bit, now it's a different type of punch. So you gotta be thinking about that. No. Let's take the very complex, which is combat sports, boxing, and let's simplify it to its greatest extent possible. And then once we've simplified it, build that foundation, then we can add the nuances as we have more context to participate in the sport as coaches and as fighters. All right, let's go.
With your own thumb facing towards you, it provides strong support.
Yes. And now here, actually, so Lomachenko actually throws a lead hook with his palm down. Bam, bam, bam. Some people call that a European hook. I've heard that term. I call it, this is American hook. Okay, so that is a type of lead hook. And it works very well against opposite stance opponents because it slides over the shoulder better oftentimes.
Turn the fist over at the very end.
I don't know what that last punch was. What was that last punch? That was a straight punch? Or someone that was already hurt and was falling? Again, I don't go through like he does and get all the clips, so much respect for him doing that. But man, these clips are iffy, and they stood out to me like sore thumbs when I saw this video.
And upon
okay, so here's the American style hook. Again, I believe it's being thrown by Terrence Crawford here. And the palm is facing him, thumb is up, bend to the wrist, bend to the arm. Oh, look at that. And when it connects, man, that palm is facing him, just like the way, in my opinion, and again, my opinion, it's only worth whatever you think it is, any good teaching of a lead hook is going to be somewhere in this realm. You could teach the fist over as well, but if you watch the majority of world champions and great fighters and great hookers, not street hookers, but boxing hookers, you will see them throw the hook like this. I would make that argument, yes. All right.
impact,
And if you'll notice too, he didn't turn it over.
it can cause further damage.
So why did he show
Here's
that video in this first section that's talking about the turnover hook? I don't know.
The late great brown bomber Joe Louis providing a textbook example.
Okay, a textbook, again,
Here's the late great
to
brown
be clear, we're talking about
First up is the basic horizontal fist hook.
We're talking about that.
With your own thumb facing towards you, it provides strong support, and if you
No more
turn the
doing
fist
it.
over at the
Some
very
other guy doing
end
something.
upon impact,
Some guy not
it can
doing
cause
it.
further
He
damage.
said,
And if you turn the fist over at the very end upon impact,
did you see the fist getting turned over at the very end? I didn't see it. Do I need glasses? He curved it in. He curved it in after it hit. There's nothing else functionally it's doing besides coming back to him. Okay? You know, you could say it's like a little, but again, are we going to argue about that? Or, you know, do a whole video about you hit the hook and then you go like this a little bit afterwards. And now it's a slight turnover that created a different power dynamic.
cause further damage.
From my experience, it's not the case.
The late great brown bomber
Okay.
Joe
So here he's saying the late great brown bomber Joe Louis, whose name was Joe Louis Barrow, right? Because he wrote his name too big on his pass book as an amateur boxer. So only fit Joe Louis, so he became Joe Louis. He said here he's doing the palm down hook. My friends, what are you saying here? Are you seeing this? Or are you seeing this? What's that thing? What's that shiny thing I see in front of that dude's face? Does he have two chins where one chin's in front of the face? Is there a weird helmet contraption they used back then? No, that is a very standard, slightly shorter American style hook, standard boxing hook, not a martial arts hook or whatever. Okay? That's what that is.
providing a textbook example.
I believe it's the same situation with that one, but I'm not going to dig into it deep.
Next is the vertical fist hook.
So the vertical fist hook. Okay, so let's look at this.
Next,
So now he has palm face, and it's not quite, it's a little finger hitting, but again, to be clear, even though finger hitting and palm hitting in boxing is illegal, it can still hurt people. If you slap the hell out of somebody, it can hurt them. You can make an argument for knuckles might do more things in certain ways, but regardless, it causes some damage, and it's borderline. Now, what's funny with this hook though is that this isn't coming around so much as it is like kind of going out a little straight, and that is kind of a different slight angle that a hook can go in, and it's okay. It's not a straight shot with the lead hand. Hell, it kind of is, but there's a slight turn on it. All right. And it was honestly, it seems like almost a hook that was caught at an odd time, right? Because that's the thing that happens during a fight and during sparring. There's chaos that happens. Do you think your punch is always going to land exactly where and at what range you thought it was going to land? No. Okay. So.
Vertical fist hook. Honestly, more pros might use this than the horizontal fist. Some claim it hits harder.
So there's Gennady against, remember I did this fight study on William Monroe Jr. And he's doing that hook, scooping it around, all right?
Or it's better on the
That's the
shoulder.
thumb up horizontal.
But the major benefit is sometimes it's easier to sneak it through the cracks in the opponent's
guard
guard.
better, yep.
Heavyweight champion and human bulldozer Rocky Marciano threw his hook.
So there we
this
see
way.
Mr. Rocky
Heavyweight champion and human bulldozer
throwing his hook. Let's just pull back though, okay? So he's in a squared stance and he's stepping over and in as he does that punch. And his right hand's kind of out and off to the side. Just keep that in your mind for later in this video. I'm not saying it's any different than any of those other hooks, but just keep it in mind for later in the video.
Rocky Marciano threw his hook this way.
There's Rocky stepping in with a
And
hook.
human bulldozer Rocky Marciano threw his hook this way.
Okay, so right there, you see? He kind of looks like a fighter we're going to see a little bit later stepping in with a hook. Boom. And it was palm. It was caught weird, right? But he came back with the uppercut. Great combination, which, by the way, sorry my head's in the way of the uppercut almost. But you remember when we did that one review on Ramsey, who said a 3-4 or a hook and an uppercut? That combo makes no sense. Well, here's Rocky Marciano making very, very good sense of it.
Number 3 is the corkscrew hook.
Corkscrew hook. Okay, so like according to Jack Dempsey, that's more of like a turnover type punch, but what he's meaning is an overhand style shot. All right, and that is a common term you hear in boxing gyms throughout the decades. Overhand. All right, it's an overhand hook. Yes, I will give you that. There's palm down hook or standard hook, palm facing you, and there's overhand style hook, and there's one more basic hook concept that, in my opinion, you need to be focused on, so you don't just kill yourself with 1,000 cuts, right? Death by 1,000 cuts is what this video is, or by 17 cuts.
Thrown by hard punching powerhouse Triple
And by
G.
the way, these punches are hassles, man. Like, you have your guard up, you think you're good, they hit you there, and it can cause some problems because the skull is a little bit more vulnerable here than it is like straight down on like right here on the forehead. So it's a good shot. And obviously Triple G is one individual that made this more popular in modern times.
You can think of this as a downward hook or a lead overhand or whatever floats your boat. But the point is that it turns over and shears downwards. It works really well if your opponent has their
see, there's the exact same knockout we saw
point
earlier.
Is that it turns over and shears
for the what he called the vertical hook or whatever it was, thumb up hook. I can't keep up with this terminology. It's too advanced for me. But this is the same exact knockdown we saw earlier, but now he's calling it hook version number 3, where it was also just number 2. So he just played the same video for number 1 and number 2. This is an example of death by 17 cuts or 14 cuts, whatever. I can't keep track.
well if your opponent has their opposite foot forward to yours, because it could curve over the opponent's lead shoulder.
Opposite stance.
Here's Up next is the shovel hook. Or
all right, so in my experience of boxing, being trained by a professional boxing coach that was my father, who worked with a professional boxing coach that worked with over 50 world champions, Chuck Bodak. The shovel shot, is shooting it more like out and forward. Like a shovel uppercut or a shovel hook, it's taking a trajectory that's, like a shovel. Okay? So, yes, that is a shot. Typically aimed well at the sternum, or depending where someone's elbow is, you could get it in your positioning on the liver.
45 hook or slingshot hook or up.
So here he says,
Up next is the shovel hook, or 45 hook or slingshot hook or upper hook, whatever name you prefer.
so again, the two different paths, right? One is the hook that more comes up the middle, like on a body typically, actually always as a shovel shot. Or you have the 45 angle punch, which is it's like an overhand, right? But at a 45 degree angle. So instead of going vertically, instead of going across, it's going at 45 degrees. That's called a 45, not a shovel shot. All right?
The movement is halfway between a hook and an uppercut, and is the
Yeah,
favorite
that is kind of like a shovel shot. Yes, different than a 45 shot. All right?
of the
One
man.
reason why I say a 45 is not a type of hook, because it's just in between a hook and an uppercut. Okay? And you have overhand shots, which you can say are hooking shots, like fine. But again, I'm not going to get into the semantical nonsense of it. All right? You have hooks, and play with throwing your hooks different ways to set it up that make it tricky.
Just mentioned.
And you won't learn that by just necessarily watching these videos by a martial arts guy who does video compilations on boxers. You'll learn it by learning the foundation first, because you need to learn that foundation first and practice that foundation for a long time. Once you got the foundation down, then you experiment a little bit. But, yeah.
Pound for pound best. Noya
So
Inoue.
that hook right there is a little bit of a shovel. Definitely, because it didn't come around so much. But it's definitely not a 45. That's not a 45. Good hard shot. Looks like
Is
the guy
usually
felt it.
thrown to the liver, with Dempsey suggesting you move your hips like you are digging a hole with a shovel. But it can be thrown to the jaw as well, as seen in our next example. This list would not be complete without the smash.
Honestly, not going to call it a type of hook. To me, it's kind of like an uppercut hybrid. Actually, as I think about it, it's almost like a straight shot.
Thrown by Donovan Razor
So there he
Rudder.
does a hook.
The load-up
That's a
motion
standard
is
hook.
kind of complete
Completely
without the
standard hook.
smash. Thrown by Donovan
there.
Razor Rudder.
Standard hook.
The load-up motion is kind of reminiscent to single-handedly
Here.
loading a shotgun.
So now he slipped to the outside of the jab, and then he comes around with his, again, it's a hook coming from down low. Throwing a hook from down low, you could try to argue 45 or whatever, but it's once it comes down low, it comes up and goes across, and that's just a hook thrown off of your head on that side.
Metaphor when you look
And
at
yes,
Ruddock's
sometimes
insane
the-
knockouts. Razor drops
This
his
almost
arm.
looks like an uppercut, right? And it comes up the middle. That's a slightly different version of the thing we just saw before.
Bent
Okay?
it.
So again, there's many ways that your body can throw punches. Do you need to categorize all the ways your body can throw punches? No. Because you're going to run into a long list, and now you're going to be thinking about all your categories of punches versus just execution. Learn the basic techniques, get in there, get ring time, do a little experimenting, letting your body find ways to do things, and you'll be successful. Not by categorizing them into this many boxes.
Then straightened it again, and sometimes bent it again after that. This is in effect a more complicated shovel hook, as it can connect at any which angle. It's risky,
Okay, so now also, remember this for later.
but
The smash punch, smash mouth punch, whatever he wants to call it. But notice here though a few things. So look where Roy's right hand is. And just remember that for later, too. And also, if you'll see, this is really it's kind of just like a big uppercut. All right, I like to throw left uppercuts, and I like to teach a basic of throwing left uppercut. Open up slightly like you're gonna do a hook, and kind of roll it up under, and that looks like a hook a little bit. And what do they do when hooks come? They open up a little bit. So you're opening up a little bit to come up with a hook, but actually it's a wham up the middle. That's kind of the concept of what this is. It's an uppercut-ish style shot thrown from a certain position.
the hell out of opponents because they have no idea what's coming or when.
Oh, of course,
This
he's got to
next-
get the IPO man thing. Yeah, of course, he's got to put a clip in from that. I think he has a graphic novel, so of martial arts. Check that out.
Next hook is thrown by Alex Pereira and Floyd
All right,
Patterson.
so there, this hook we just saw. Just trying to use his lingo for the hell of it. Don't, and I would never. Besides this video, let's watch Alex's hook here. So it's kind of coming from down low a little bit, and it's kind of coming up, right? That's a 45 shot. Is that a shovel shot? Is it a smash punch? What is it? I bet he was thinking all of these things when he threw the punch, right?
Alex Pereira and Floyd Patterson. So as such, I'll just call it the peekaboo hook.
Oh.
The elbow is kept tight to the side of the ribs until the very...
Okay. Oh, okay, so let's hear his definition.
I'll just call it the peekaboo hook. The elbow is kept tight to the side of the ribs until the very last moment.
That's just a good hook, my friend. You don't. What are we supposed to do? Pop the elbow out hard before you even throw it? I'm confused.
The last second turnover makes it incredibly fast.
Turnover. Let's clarify terms. This is turning over. I think that's turning over. What do you think? When people say turn over your punches, they mean this. I don't see this turning over. I mean, it's scooping. There's a bend of the wrist that happens. Is that what he's talking about? Again, am I getting too nitpicky? Maybe.
And very hard to see coming. Great for high-speed combinations.
Yeah, so you mean like a non-loopy hook that's not super obvious, like a good quality hook. Is that what this hook is called? It's called a peekaboo hook. Okay.
Number 7 is the wind-up hook, used by Big George Foreman.
AKA more loopy punches. Loopy punches. Not the wind-up hook, not this other type of hook. Loopy punches. Punches that are more loopy. Am I crapping on George Foreman? No. No, I'm not. Very powerful. Heavyweight champion. But his punches are a little bit more wide. When did this become a different type of punch that we're going to categorize? Never until this video.
Next is the hammer hook, used by the greatest, Muhammad Ali.
The hammer hook. Yes, of course. I'm sure you asked Ali, he'd call it the hammer hook. And he's right there kind of hitting with his thumb. Okay? Ali, one of the greatest fighters that ever lived. Sometimes he slap punches. That's sometimes what happens when you are super loose and you go super fast. Sometimes the way your punches connect are not always perfect. Because you're kind of more of a flurry volume guy at times. It's like his punch accuracy. A lot of his punches didn't land. It doesn't mean he's not great. It's just the style versus a more conservative fighter. Okay? Alright. So he's hitting with his thumb, and sometimes he hits with his palm.
It hits with the bottom of the hand.
Bottom of the hand?
Ali
Looks like he hits with the side of the hand or the thumb. Let's see.
a karate chop.
It wasn't even hitting there. It was just in the air.
Perhaps because he suffered from...
Again, that was complete palm. That was not the bottom of the hand. You know, it's a slap style shot. And that's not me being insulting to Ali. He didn't knock people out with a lot of hooks. Maybe this was why.
Suffered from hand injuries. Or maybe because it helped him sneak the shot through tricky guards like Frazier's.
And again, so you get a really warped idea of what boxing is, because then you think that this is actually a thing that you should practice. This is what you call something that you should unpractice or practice out of you. Now, will it be 100% the reason why you're not great? No, it won't. Because as we see with Ali, as we see with another guy that he puts on this list, you can still be a damn good fighter, world champion, and still do things, you know, that are not perfect. And that's okay. It's okay. I still love you.
Next is the check hook, used by...
Okay, so spinning with your hook, right? And you can call that check hook. I'll give you that. I'll give you a point on that, modern martial artist. That is kind of another type of hook, you know? So da boom, maybe 45, check hook. All right, you're winning me over here.
Floyd Mayweather to
Not really.
KO Ricky Hatton. You step offline as the opponent charges in, keeping you safe and setting up the angle to circumvent their guard.
Yep.
Number 10 is the straight arm hook.
Straight arm hook. Straight arm hook. Does that make sense to anybody? Doesn't make sense to me.
Where the arm is kept extended from near the start of the movement. Used by knockout king Wilfredo Gomez.
Of course, my head is in the
Who
way of
once
his
went
punch.
32 wins,
Let's watch another one.
0 losses.
Ah, yes, the straight arm hook. The straight arm hook where the arm is bent, not straight, is a straight arm hook. Or, again, any of you guys that have boxed, sometimes you go out to reach a hook on someone and your mind kind of tells you they're farther away than you think, and you'll try to extend it a little further. You're not like, it's not the most perfect hook. You extend a little further to try to reach him. That's something Wilfredo Gomez did. And then oftentimes got a perfectly normal, very long hook. Not the straight arm hook.
And 32 KOs. Keep in mind that this blatant hook only worked because he paired it with...
Look at that hook. That looks like a straight arm hook. Let's go back. Still not a straight arm hook.
...it with a half jab, which
How
was...
many times are we going to see videos of it not? Right? And videos slightly, he can find 2 or 3 videos out of God knows how much he watched these fights, to find where the guy hits with an extended arm. Right? No one throws perfect punches all the time. Right? Whatever a perfect punch is. All right, that's a whole nother topic.
...covered in my 50 jabs video. Next is Roy Jones Jr.'s dive bomb.
Yes.
Jones
So as we saw earlier, that is actually the same
my
flipping
50 jabs
knockout.
video.
Or knockdown.
Next is Roy
No, that was a knockout, I think, against Montel, wasn't it? That was the same clip we saw earlier.
Jones Jr.'s dive bomb. Jones would
And
condition
now it's called
opponents...
the dive bomb hook. So earlier, what was it called? Earlier it was called the smash hook, or the 45 hook, or the shuffle hook. Let's go here. All right.
...opponents to expect a rear hook. Then he would flare his rear arm.
Ah, yes. So he talks about the strategy of the
Expect a
dive
rear
bomb
hook.
Get people to expect the rear hook.
Then
Then he
he
flares
would
his
flare
arm.
his rear arm, but throw his lead arm instead.
And throws a lead arm hook. Right. Now, when you start going fast and you start getting loose, all right, sometimes you'll see a lot of guys from Muhammad Ali to Canelo Alvarez, I know I've seen do this, that when you start getting loose and going on those hooks, sometimes that right arm has a mind of its own and it just kind of flips out. And sometimes if you kind of lean over real quick, your arm might go out a little bit. That will kind of counterbalance, helps you be fast. If you're, and boom. Guys do this. It's not this like different category of hook. He's frankly dropping his hand. That's what he's doing. Putting both his hands down, so it's a little deceptive, and boom. And then sometimes he's just doing it just because he's doing it. He's moving his body. If I swing myself over here, my right arm's going to go out a little bit.
Focused on his rear hand, the opponent's...
You can see Muhammad Ali hit the bag just like that. And throw his combinations with his hand out like that. And it's not because he's looking to do the dive bomb hook or whatever, or the dive bomb jab. It's just, they're loose, they're going out there. Perfected imperfection is what Chuck Bodak would call it. It's a perfected imperfection. Is it something you would teach? No. Is it something they do? Yes. Is it something they're successful with? Yes. Should you untrain it? Unless it starts causing them problems. But you're going to freaking go nonstop trying to tweak and perfect everything, and you start to screw up a guy's perfected imperfections, and then you actually make them literally a worse fighter.
On his rear hand, the opponents often never saw the hook coming.
As we discussed in the fight study of that, Tony was focused on leaning out, and leaning out against someone who steps in with a hook could be a bad idea.
I would not recommend flailing both your arms out
Leans
like
out.
Wolverine unless
And now he's kind of stuck. Gets caught by that hook.
you have the reflexes and speed of a prime Roy Jones Jr. And if you do, make sure to give me
Again, that's him getting that head over quick. Arm kind of flares out. Hook to the body.
a shout out when you're champ in a few years.
Yeah. And so he says, I guess if you do this or if you have the reflexes to do this, you'll, give him a shout out when you're champ in a few years. All right. Yeah. See, again, the BS of expectations, right? Unless you are a pro prospect right now, you can rest assured you will not be champ. Because I assume he's talking about pro. You will not be champ in a few years. Unless you are like elite world class, hundreds of amateur fights, or you are a pro right now that is chugging along excellent. Yes, you two categories of people, maybe. Everyone else watching this video, no. I'm all about the truth. The truth will set you free. Takes a lot longer than a few years.
Speaking of Jones, Joe Calzaghe beat him and did it using palm hooks.
Oh yes, yes. Oh yes. I remember the day in the gym where we worked on the palm hooks. That day was never. Again, so Calzaghe, he's very fast. Like I said with Ali, people that are very fast,
although his detractors would call them slap hooks,
tend to
they are
paw
lightning fast
or slap.
and can connect from much tighter.
And it's palm strikes, it's slaps, whatever, it doesn't matter. They're technically not legal punches with boxing. Am I whining and complaining about Joe Calzaghe? No, I'm not. Am I saying he's a garbage fighter? No, I'm not. Is it something you need practice? No, you don't. Why? Because I've seen plenty of guys in the amateurs get DQ'd for slapping. I've seen plenty of refs in the pros call people for slapping. It's not a category of hook that you need to be even thinking about.
Their angles.
There were some good hooks
Ali
there
used
too.
them as well, maybe to protect his hands. And
So Ali used this as well as the hammer hook, which was the other hook. Again, same exact thing, called two different things. Makes sense to me. What's your problem?
maybe not. Now let's take a look at the center hook, used by Oscar Valdez and Joe Frazier. Just because a
So again, is it just me or does that kind of look like that smash style hook, right? Where it comes up the middle a little bit more.
hook moves sideways doesn't mean
That is a straight left hand.
it needs to hit the
Sure,
opponent.
it doesn't end straight. It's bent arm, which doesn't qualify as a hook. A hook makes a hook motion. Imagine hooking somebody in, right? A fish hook. It's not just because the arm is bent when you hit it that makes it a hook. That,
And Joe Frazier.
my
Just
friend,
because a hook moves sideways doesn't mean it needs to hit the opponent's side.
is a straight left
It can
hand.
sneak in between their guard as well.
That is what he would refer to earlier as a straight arm hook. It's a very, very long hook that is very much borderline. In amateurs, you'd probably be called for slapping for that. Can it hurt people? Yeah, it can hurt. Absolutely. What's it called? A center hook? It's hitting the side of the face.
With the right alignment and striking path, you can get power punches to connect almost anywhere you want them to. And sneaking a hook in
Ah, yes. Another example of
you can get power
basically a
punches to
hook
connect almost
that he's
anywhere you want
confused
them
about.
to. And sneaking
I'm sorry. See, now I'm just getting more and more negative. But this hook is coming around. But he threw it with a good whip, and it hurts.
jarring effect on them. Often paired with an outside
I
slip,
just see a jab.
cover block has a jarring effect on them.
Yeah, I kind of see like a jab that wasn't turned over. AKA center hook.
Often paired with an outside slip, which is a pretty unique hook
By the way, very sneaky way to set up a hook that doesn't call it a center hook or whatever the hell, is slipping to the outside and doing a hook.
effect on them.
You need to throw from your hand being down.
Often paired
but
with
it's not a type of hook. It's called a counter, right? It's a type of counter where you slip one side, throw a hand with the opposite side. Because typically you put your head on your right side, people expect you to come back with your right? Put your head on your right side or your rear side, come with the lead hand. They don't expect it. Called the counter. It's just different.
with an outside slip,
you throw from
which is a
down.
pretty unique hook setup.
I've had fighters do
all
this
on
and
its
it's
own.
tricky.
Up next is Mayweather's 3-beat hook. Sorry he's on here twice, but the guy had a super unusual style that worked, so it's gonna happen.
All right, so here he has a hook that he steps in with like that. And it's kind of from like a low arm position. Why does this work? Because he does a lot of jabs to the body. A lot of people I've heard said that his jab to the body was his hardest punch. So if that's a threat, then when someone sees you make that motion, no matter what the hell you do with your hand, if it's anywhere in that arena of being down-ish, they're going to expect that, and you come up with the hook. All right? He did that against Corrales, right?
The gazelle hook, used by
Yes,
Joe.
the gazelle hook.
Rest of the punch be super
AKA
telegraphed.
in this clip,
Moving on. The gazelle
it looks like a regular hook.
hook, used by
He just kind of, gets a little bounce on. And, I know what people call gazelle hooks where you step in. Not a term that you heard 30 years ago, before the internet, or before, I don't know, I feel like a book came out that's called something like gazelle punch. Anyway,
Joe Frazier to knock down Muhammad Ali.
and to be clear, a book that's not written by a legitimate boxing person.
Is a thing of beauty. Usually combined with the weave, this punch lets you shuffle into
Yeah. So AKA, stepping in with your hook. Oh, okay. So you have palm facing hook, palm down hook. You have a hook that you kind of throw at a 45-degree angle. And you have a hook you can step in with. At the end of the day, and you have an overhand style hook. At the end of the day, you have hook-shaped punches that you should throw in ways that land on people. And that is what you need to focus on.
your hook.
So what was that? So in this
Lets
section
you
talking
shuffle
about the
into your
gazelle
hook.
hook, which I definitely see him stepping with his hook, as did I most of the time. Here we have Frazier do what? Stay in one spot and throw a hook? Is that now called a gazelle hook as well?
Tyson
Or one of those other punches a gazelle hook? I don't know.
also loved it. So did Patterson, and so did Rocky Marciano.
Now what's funny too, so look here.
And so did Rocky Marciano.
Okay, let's watch. Do you see where Patterson's right arm is? Do you see it? It's out there. Is he doing the bomb hook? I think he called it by Roy Jones Jr. The bomb hook? Is that the bomb hook now? Because you see, Floyd had his right arm that shot out. That must be the dive bomb hook. That's right, that's what he called it. That must be the dive bomb hook. And here Rocky goes again, putting his right arm out because this is the dive bomb hook demonstration that we're watching. Oh, no, wait. This is the gazelle hook demonstration that we're watching. Again, we found 3 hooks that he classifies, where he uses all 3 hooks, or rather, he uses the same video to show all 3 hooks.
I'm almost done editing and remembered this insanely brilliant tactic used by Inoue.
The idea of brushing a punch, and the idea of how a hook can brush a punch.
If you've trained yourself, you've most likely experienced one of your punches running into an opponent's punch, and it may have thrown...
Yeah. And it's also something that happens. And if you have good balance, you're fine. And again, he's making the argument of like, oh, it's a super secret
one or
tactical
both
move
of
to
you off
practice.
balance. Inoue's coach turned this into a legitimate technique.
I legitimately suspect that Mr.
Counting-
Inoue
Inoue's
tried to hit this guy with a hook and didn't get it. That's what I suspect. Because guess what? Sometimes because look how much he follows through with it. That sometimes happens. When you throw a right hand and you're like this, your shoulder gets in the way of the hook. And then it kind of slides over you. I'm not saying it's not a move that this guy has never practiced or done or whatever. But it's also could be that.
this into a legitimate technique,
Comes back with the
counting
uppercut.
on the lead hook to alter the course of the opponent's cross. And
If the uppercut lands, it's going to hurt him more.
different timing, it just turns into a
Oh yes, and here's Inoue getting hit by a right hand.
fadeaway counter.
and then coming with a hook.
A
Getting hit and coming
hyper-advanced
back.
tactic is the shift back hook,
Yes. And
used
the shift.
by Valdez, Pereira,
Yes.
and especially James Toney.
Somebody throwing a
If you'd
hook
like to
while
learn more
stepping
about
back
the
with their
complex
lead leg.
footwork to set this up, you can
So
check
you
out
can
my
step
book,
back like he does here.
Footwork Wins
Now he's basically southpaw.
Fights.
Shoots a hook.
Link. Learn more about the complex footwork to set this up, you can check out my book, Footwork Wins Fights.
Yes. Learn about this complex technique where you step back with your lead leg and shoot a hook. In the book.
Link below. Last is the turn shift hook, used by...
So again, a good fighter is someone that can throw punches in any position. That's what this concept is. It's not a whole other category of hook. It is someone that can throw punches in any position. Congratulations. Is it good? Yes. Does it look cool? Yes. Is it something you might be able to do in the beginning? You probably aren't able to do it. Maybe. Maybe you can. Throw punches no matter wherever your guy is. The more you can do that, the better you'll be.
Last is the turn shift hook,
See right there, Hagler's orthodox.
used
Now
by marvelous Marvin
does the
Hagler.
lead hook.
Rather than pivot with his opponent to stay aligned
Shoots that leap-in jab that he does, which I'm sure was one of the 50 jabs in the jab 50 video thing that this guy did.
in his
Slides past.
preferred southpaw
Does
stance,
a
Hagler would
hook.
simply turn.
All right. Now, this is something that I work on with some of my guys as they've built up their foundation, and that's cutting an angle, switching stances as they cut an angle because they can create some sweet angles, and shooting a punch. That doesn't change the type of punch it is. Just makes it a punch. Right hook, left hook, whatever.
Turn into orthodox and throw hooks from there.
And you're standing like that. Somebody steps
Cutting
over
a
to your
lot of
side,
time
catch him with a hook on that
off
side.
of
They
his
step
attack.
back, catch him going off to the other side in your other stance. It's a great way to be very dominant and catch people off of balance or not being ready. That's it for the video. Tell me what you think. Comment below. Give me your thoughts. Am I being too critical? Right? Are there actually 3 examples of hooks that he uses 3 different times for 3 different types of hooks? Am I missing something? Should you have 3 different names for the same hook according to one guy? Maybe I'm missing something. And again, this is all done with good fun. And what is the point of all this? The point of all this is I saw this video, so I wanted to comment about this because I care. I care that someone who's getting started in boxing or is trying to make their way in boxing gets confused by this and starts working on, holy crap, 17 hooks and wastes a lot of time in the gym that could be spent in way better places, building a way better foundation. They'll never know what they could have been if they just would have kept it a little more simple. All right, guys, hit me a comment, like, subscribe, share with someone that you think might benefit. Consider dropping a super chat. Watch out, I'm going to do a live video soon, probably on Monday at 9:30 again, because that was so amazing and awesome. And I really appreciate your support, guys. See ya.